So I'll start with a couple of stories. Start when I was 16. So when I was 16, I moved from China to the UK for high school. And at the time that my parents actually gave me all of their life savings because they hoped that by going to the UK, I would have the possibility of having a successful life with options that I would not have in China. But there wasn't enough money for all of us to move. So it was just me. I didn't really speak any English at the time. But as soon as I arrived in the UK, I got my first job in a big insurance company as a cleaning girl. Right. But there's one good thing that came out working as a cleaner in my spare time from school was that, hey, sitting in lectures and studying in libraries, that is cool. That became one of my favorite things to do. So that's how I started my new life in the UK. I didn't really know that where the path was going, but I knew one thing at a time. You know what? I had to succeed because I want to make it to a good university and have a good paid job so that my parents would be proud of me. And at that time, I was 16 years old, and that was my definition of success. And years later, I was actually lucky enough to graduate from the University of Cambridge, and I received a job offer from JP Morgan. And I thought, hey, you know what? I made it. And that is the story of my parents' leap of faith. And that's how things started. And as the story goes on, that was the 2008, 15th of September. I don't know how many of you remember that day, but that was the day Lehman Brothers went bankrupt. So that was the biggest bankruptcy in the whole US history. The global financial market was literally in a meltdown. And that was the first day of my banking career. Then I spent the next 10 years, what I did was to climb the career ladder, and I moved to a new bank every 3 years, because moving around in banking is the best way to get promoted and pay rise. I didn't tell you that. Like the rest of that industry, I was driven by money, but nothing else. Then in 2014, something happened because my daughter was born. And all of a sudden, they made me think, hey, something is different here. I started wondering, what does success actually mean? What is the purpose of a career? And is that the kind of future that I want my daughter to live in? Then by the time I was already in banking for 10 years, I started reflecting back from my experience. Having lived through this financial crisis and since the biggest, most serious financial crisis since the Great Depression, then I realized it's an industry, unfortunately, it has a lot of pitfalls. The biggest one being the short-term mindset. And the short-term mindset from an industry, that's actually something drove the credit crisis, to the mis-selling scandals that you probably heard of, to a lot of market manipulation behavior. And I thought, you know what? Who are the victims here? The victims are the disadvantaged group, the people who are underserved and who have no idea about finance. And that short-termism is really one of the major sources when it comes to financial inequality. I wonder whether it's surprising to you that financial services is actually one of the least trusted industry. And that was the time it came to me, so something has to change. And who is making that change? Somebody has to do that. And I began to think, right, number one, it was pretty obvious the knowledge part is missing. I was fortunate that my parents, they took that leap of faith in me. So I got that education that I needed to change my life. But millions of people out there, they don't really have that chance. And there's another thing, it's not obvious for the financial industry, is that how the information is communicated, that is different. And there's a third element, is that the industry doesn't understand the connection between finance and people. What do people care about? There's the emotions and feelings that people care about. Then I thought, okay, the dots are starting to connect in my head. People don't really earn money for the sake of it, right? People earn money to build a future they want to live in. That is, we're talking about the planet, a healthy planet and an equal society. But if you think about the definition of sustainability, that's exactly that. It's talking about environmental, the social, the economic sustainability, and the role of finance should be really there to empower people to take charge of that own sustainable future. And I thought, you know what? That is something I would be really excited to get up on a Monday morning for. At the time, I was still working in banking. And I thought, you know what? That is my chance to take that leap of faith 22 years after my parents took theirs. So I quit my job in 2019. And my parents thought, hey, we didn't invest all my savings in you just for you to be unemployed. And my colleagues thought I was crazy. But I thought, okay, this is one chance that I could do. I have no idea what I was doing. That was the truth. All I had was just a dream and a blurry idea. And that was the end of 2019. Some lucky people might be born entrepreneurs, but that is definitely not me. The first 6 months of my entrepreneurial journey was not romantic. Coming from banking, that means to me that, right, I was trained to be a perfectionist. I had no idea what an MVP was, a minimum viable product. And as a new entrepreneur, I call myself, now looking back, a theoretical entrepreneur. What I did was that I read lots of books about entrepreneurship, about fintech. I went to all sorts of conferences. I made a beautiful pitch deck with a big mission and a vision. I did everything that was sounding right to me at the time, except one thing: building something, making anything, something that I can engage with real users and to find out about their real pain point. So that 6 months passed, nothing was really achieved. I would have thought, okay, that was one of the lowest points of my startup journey so far. But I was optimistic. I pushed on. And at some point, I've got two crazy co-founders join my journey. And that was the time that, okay, we got accepted into an incubator program from Porsche Digital. And that was the time that we were pushed to make something. And we started learning that, you know what? No is actually a good thing. It doesn't mean failure. It means this is your chance to improve, your potential for the improvement. And from then on, luck started to follow us. After 6 months of building our MVP, cycle after cycle, then we got into the FinTech for Impact Challenge, organized by Visa, where we presented our solution to 13 German banks, and we came out to be the champion. We had this idea of building something as simple as shopping on Amazon so that people can start investing their money in a sustainable way. Then we got selected as Germany's top 3 impact startups by Getting the Ring. And then we got our first B2B client, and we closed our first funding round. So that is a bit of a story starting when I was 16. It's very important to see that luck follows doers, not really daydreamers. But if you think about, right, coming back to the question, what does success really mean, right? What is the definition of success? Is it fame? Is it money? But then I got this inspiration from this kids game, the dominoes kids game. One thing you probably don't know about the dominoes is that a domino brick, it can knock over another domino brick about 1.5 times bigger than itself. That means that if you have a chain of dominoes, you can have a powerful chain reaction. But starting with a tiny, tiny push, the tiniest domino at the very start. And I wondered whether that is the definition of success. Well, with that, I want to leave you with a formula with 4 words. The first word is be curious. Always be curious. I want you to think about how your knowledge and your experience could solve a problem in a society and makes things a little bit better for the people around you. But what is so important that you're passionate about it, something you're passionate about getting up on a Monday morning for example. Well, once you've found that passion, the second word I want to give you is to be courageous. You want to just do it, and you want to find the joy, the happiness of doing it. But if you choose to do it, there's a third word I would like to give you. You want to be obsessed. If you are not being obsessed, you can only be average. And fourthly, being an entrepreneur, doing anything, all you need is persistency. You want to be persistent because you only really fail when you stop trying. And that's the story that, well, all of that, you can only start with a little bit of a leap of faith to achieve whatever you want to achieve, the impact you would like to achieve in the future. So that's my story. More than happy to hear your feedback. If you have any questions, shoot over. Thank you.